Don't ignore your soulmate is about to leave you and never come back. Because, my beloved child, there is a silence forming around your life that you have been pretending not to hear. And tonight, that silence finally speaks. You feel it in the pauses between messages, in the way their name no longer lights up your chest the same way, in the strange calm that arrives after repeated storms. This is not coincidence. This is not fate playing games. This is a warning wrapped in mercy. Someone you call your soulmate is standing at the edge of your world, quietly packing memories, quietly learning how to breathe without you, quietly preparing to leave in a way that will not look dramatic from the outside but will feel like an earthquake inside you. You think love leaves loudly with shouting and tears and final conversations. Real love leaves softly. It leaves when hope gets tired of waiting. It leaves when effort starts feeling invisible. It leaves when being strong becomes heavier than being honest. And if you listen carefully, you will realize the leaving has already begun. Here is the truth. No one told you because it hurts too much to say out loud. The moment someone starts explaining your absence to themselves, instead of questioning it with you, the countdown begins. They stopped asking why you changed, not because they understood, but because they gave up expecting answers. They stopped fighting not because peace arrived but because exhaustion won. They still smile at you, still talk, still stay, but their heart has quietly stepped back to protect itself. You mistake this calm for stability. You call it maturity. You call it trust. But deep inside something feels off, like a door left open in winter. This is the most dangerous phase of love because nothing looks broken yet everything important already is. When someone learns how to live with less of you, they are learning how to live without you. Listen closely now because this part decides everything. Your soulmate is not leaving because of one big mistake. They are leaving because of 1,000 small moments where they felt unseen. Moments when they chose silence instead of argument. Moments when they forgave without receiving change. Moments when they lowered their expectations just to keep the connection alive. Love does not die when people fight. Love dies when people stop believing their feelings matter. And right now, your soulmate feels like an extra in a story they once thought they were the lead of. They are not angry anymore. Anger still cares. They are calm. Calm is dangerous. Calm means they have already grieved the version of you they needed and they are preparing for a future where you are just a chapter, not the whole book. Now comes the revelation that will sit heavy in your chest. The day your soulmate leaves, they will not come back. Not because they stopped loving you, but because they finally started loving themselves. There will be no dramatic goodbye. No long speech, no second chances requested, just distance, clean, polite, permanent. You will replay old conversations, searching for the exact moment it went wrong, and you will realize too late that the signs were everywhere. The late replies, the shortened laughter, the way they stopped sharing their fears, the way they listened more than they spoke. People announce their departure long before they physically leave. We just ignore it because facing it would require change. And change feels uncomfortable when everything still feels familiar. And here is where your story pauses right before the point of no return. You still have time, but not much. Time measured not in days or weeks, but in awareness. Awareness of how you show up. Awareness of what you take for granted. Awareness of the emotional debts you keep postponing. Love does not ask for perfection. It asks for presence. It asks for effort that can be felt, not promised. If you think soulmates are meant to stay no matter what, you have misunderstood the lesson. Soulmates are meant to wake you up, not wait forever. And if nothing changes after this moment, the person you once called forever will soon become the one lesson you wish you learned earlier. There is a moment coming that will not feel dramatic at first. And that is exactly why it will destroy you later. You will wake up one day and realize that the person who once waited for you no longer waits. Not because they became busy, not because they forgot, but because they finally accepted that waiting was costing them their peace. This is the phase where your soulmate becomes emotionally unavailable while still physically present. They reply, but without warmth. They listen, but without curiosity. They stay but without attachment. You will sense it and still convince yourself that things are fine because the fear of losing them feels heavier than the effort required to change. This is where most people lose their soulmates forever. Not in chaos, not in betrayal, but in comfort. Comfort that slowly teaches you that love does not need urgency until urgency disappears completely. Understand this carefully because this truth separates regret from redemption. Your soulmate is not asking for more words. They are craving proof. Proof that their feelings are not an afterthought. Proof that they are not the only one carrying emotional weight. Proof that love is still alive in action, not just memory. Every time you say you will do better later, they hear that they are not important enough now. Every time you choose convenience over connection, they feel themselves shrinking inside the relationship. And the most painful part is this: they are still hoping you notice. They are still giving you silent chances. But hope when stretched too long turns into preparation. Preparation to leave. Preparation to survive the heartbreak they already feel coming. By the time you ask what went wrong, they will already have the answer and it will be too late to change it. Here is something almost no one understands until it breaks them. When your soulmate starts detaching, they are not falling out of love. They are falling out of pain. They are teaching themselves how to exist without needing reassurance from you. They are rehearsing a life where your absence does not ruin their day. This process is quiet, invisible, ruthless, and once it is complete, love no longer has power over them. That is why when they finally leave, they do not look back. That is why your apologies will sound sincere but ineffective. That is why your promises will come when they no longer need them. You will feel like you lost them suddenly. They will feel like they left a long time ago. Pause here because this next truth changes everything if you let it. The universe does not remove soulmates randomly. It removes them when a lesson has been ignored for too long. If your soulmate leaves, they are not punishing you. They are choosing themselves after choosing you too many times. Love is not about possession. It is about participation. And right now, your participation has been inconsistent. You showed up when it was easy. You disappeared when it required vulnerability. You assumed loyalty would survive neglect. But even the strongest bonds fracture when effort becomes one-sided. Your soulmate is tired of explaining what should have been felt. Tired of asking for what should have been given freely. Tired of being strong alone in a connection meant for two. This is the final warning hidden inside compassion. If nothing shifts after this realization, the ending is permanent. Not because love was weak, but because self-respect became stronger. You will remember them in quiet moments, in songs, in places, in versions of yourself that felt more alive with them. And they will remember you too, but without longing, without bitterness, just acceptance. Acceptance that some people are meant to meet. Awaken something deep and then leave so that growth can continue. The tragedy is not losing a soulmate. The tragedy is realizing too late that they were leaving while you were still acting like they would never go. There is a truth approaching you now, slow and heavy, and once it lands, you will never hear love the same way again. The absence you fear is not coming from outside. It is being created inside the person you hold closest. Your soulmate is no longer imagining a future with you the way they once did. They are imagining a future without pain, without waiting, without explaining their worth. This shift is subtle but irreversible if ignored. They no longer daydream aloud. They no longer argue their point passionately. They no longer correct you when you misunderstand them. Silence has replaced effort. And silence is not peace, silence is resignation. When someone stops trying to be understood, it means they are learning how to let go. And this is the stage where love becomes memory before it becomes distance. Pay attention now because this next realization is what separates heartbreak from transformation. Your soulmate did not wake up one day and decide to leave. They arrived here after countless nights of self-debate. Nights where they asked themselves if asking for basic emotional presence was asking for too much. Nights where they replayed your words, your actions, your inconsistencies, trying to make sense of why love felt lonely. Each unanswered need became a brick. Each dismissed emotion became weight. Eventually, carrying the relationship alone started costing them their identity. And no soulmate is meant to disappear just to keep a connection alive. Love is supposed to expand you, not erase you. The moment they felt smaller with you than they were without you, the ending became inevitable. Here is the part that will hurt to hear but heal if understood. You still think love ends when someone walks away. In reality, love ends when someone stops feeling safe enough to be real. Your soulmate learned to filter themselves around you, to soften their truth, to reduce their expectations, to pretend certain things did not hurt. That was not maturity. That was survival. And survival mode cannot coexist with deep connection. When someone must protect themselves from the person they love, something sacred has already been broken. They stayed longer than they should have, because hope kept whispering that you would notice. But hope when ignored repeatedly eventually gives way to clarity. And clarity does not beg. It leaves. Now let this sink in slowly. When your soulmate leaves, you will feel like time betrayed you. You will think one more conversation could have fixed everything, one deeper apology, one serious promise. But what you will not see is that they already gave you all of that internally. They already imagined you changing. They already forgave you in advance. They already waited for the version of you that never fully arrived. By the time they speak their final words, they will be emotionally free. You will be speaking from fear. They will be speaking from peace. That difference is why reunions do not happen at this stage. You cannot chase someone who has already completed the emotional journey you are just beginning. And this is where the lesson locks itself into your soul. Soulmates are not guaranteed stays. They are mirrors. They show you who you are when love requires consistency, courage, and presence. If you fail the lesson, they leave with the answers you refuse to learn in time, not to punish you, not to haunt you, but to protect the part of themselves that learned too late that love should not feel like a struggle to be chosen. What happens next depends entirely on awareness. Because once your soulmate fully lets go, there is no returning to the version of love you once had, only the memory of what it taught you and the quiet understanding that some losses are permanent because they were meant to change you forever. Something irreversible is forming now, and you can feel it even if you refuse to name it. Your soulmate is no longer emotionally arguing with the reality of losing you. They are accepting it. Acceptance is the final stage, and it is the most dangerous one because it feels calm, logical, and justified. They are telling themselves that love should not require begging to be prioritized. They are convincing their heart that consistency matters more than intensity, and once this belief settles in, no amount of sudden effort can undo it. You may sense a strange politeness in them now, a kindness without depth, a presence without attachment. This is not them being strong. This is them being done. When someone stops reacting, it is not because they do not care. It is because caring became too painful. Here is the part almost no one talks about. Your soulmate has already imagined their life without you in detail. The mornings, the nights, the silence, the healing. They have already cried the tears you think are still coming. They have already mourned the future they wanted with you. That is why they seem lighter now. That is why they are not demanding explanations anymore. Their heart has quietly crossed a bridge you are still standing far away from. And once that bridge is crossed, love no longer negotiates. Love no longer waits. Love becomes a lesson instead of a promise. This is why when they finally leave, it will shock you how composed they look. You will be drowning in emotion. They will be breathing freely for the first time in a long while. Let this truth sit uncomfortably with you. The pain you will feel later is the pain they have been feeling alone for a long time. While you assumed things would eventually work out, they were slowly working themselves out of you. While you trusted the bond to survive on history, they needed it to survive on effort. Love cannot live on memories alone. Love needs renewal. It needs reassurance. It needs to feel chosen every day, not remembered occasionally. And when your soulmate stopped feeling chosen, they started choosing themselves, not out of selfishness, out of necessity, because staying was breaking them in ways leaving never could. This is where regret is born. If awareness does not arrive in time, you will wish you had listened harder. You will wish you had acted sooner. You will wish you had treated their silence as a signal instead of comfort. But regret is not loud enough to stop someone who has already found clarity. Once your soulmate realizes that peace exists without you, chaos with you becomes unacceptable. That realization changes a person permanently. They stop romanticizing potential. They stop settling for promises. They start honoring their emotional boundaries. And when that happens, love cannot pull them back unless it transforms completely. So understand this as deeply as you can. You are not about to lose your soulmate because of destiny. You are about to lose them because awareness arrived too late. Unless something shifts now, not in words but in consistent action, this chapter will close without reopening. And one day when you think of them, it will not hurt because they left. It will hurt because you finally understand why they had to. There is a final shift that happens before a soulmate leaves forever, and it is quieter than everything before it. Your soulmate stops imagining you as the person who will save the relationship. They stop hoping you will suddenly understand without being told. They stop waiting for the moment you finally show up in the way they needed all along. Hope does not shatter loudly. It fades. And when hope fades, love no longer reaches outward. It turns inward. That is when your soulmate begins to protect their future instead of protecting the bond. You may still be there. You may still talk, but the emotional door is already closing slowly, carefully, without drama. This is the moment when love stops asking for effort and starts demanding distance. Now hear this carefully, because this is where truth becomes unavoidable. Your soulmate did not leave because they were weak. They left because staying required them to abandon themselves. Every time they swallowed their feelings to keep peace, something inside them cracked. Every time they accepted less than they deserved, their self-respect took a step back. Eventually, the cost of loving you became greater than the fear of losing you. That is the exact moment a soulmate chooses to walk away and never return. Not because they stopped caring, but because they finally understood that love without reciprocity is not love. It is endurance. And no one is meant to endure the person they love. This is the part that will haunt you if you ignore it now. Once your soulmate leaves, they will not come back to prove anything. They will not return to be understood. They will not return to relive pain for familiarity. They will move forward with a clarity that surprises you. You will wonder how they detached so cleanly, how they became so distant so fast, but the truth is simple. They did the emotional work while you were still assuming time would fix everything. They healed while you delayed. They accepted while you hesitated. By the time you feel ready to fight, they will already be at peace with letting go. Let this realization hit where it needs to. Love does not end when someone leaves. It ends when someone feels alone while staying. Your soulmate stayed longer than they should have because they believed in who you could be. They left because they finally accepted who you chose to be. That difference is everything. You cannot convince someone to return once they have stopped believing in your potential. Words cannot compete with patterns. Apologies cannot erase consistency, and intentions do not outweigh impact. When your soulmate closes that chapter, it is not anger that seals it. It is understanding. There is nothing left to misunderstand now, only something left to accept. Your soulmate has reached the point where love no longer feels like a question they need answered by you. They already answered it for themselves. They asked whether staying would heal them or slowly hollow them out, and the answer became clear with painful honesty. When a person chooses peace over attachment, they are no longer reachable by fear. You may sense distance, but this distance is not confusion. It is decision. A decision made quietly after patience ran out and self-respect finally spoke louder than hope. This is where endings become permanent. Not because someone stopped loving, but because they started valuing their emotional survival more than familiarity. Understand this deeply because this is the final layer of truth. Your soulmate leaving is not a punishment. It is a consequence of misalignment. Love can survive mistakes. It can survive arguments. It can even survive distance. What it cannot survive is feeling consistently unchosen. Over time, your soulmate learned that waiting for you to show up fully was teaching them to disappear slowly. And no connection, no matter how intense it once was, is worth losing yourself over. When they leave now, they are not running away. They are returning to themselves. That is why there will be no turning back. A person who finds themselves again does not return to places where they felt lost. This is the moment where regret tries to speak, but it speaks too late. You will replay everything. The moments you postponed effort. The times you assumed they understood, the silence you mistook for strength. You will realize that love does not collapse suddenly. It erodes quietly when presence becomes optional. By the time you feel the urgency to change, the opportunity to matter may already be gone. Not because change is impossible, but because timing is unforgiving. Love responds to awareness in the moment, not realization after loss. Let this truth land without resistance. Some soulmates are not meant to stay. They are meant to awaken you to the version of yourself that can love better, deeper, and more consciously. Losing them becomes the lesson that shapes every connection after. You do not forget them because they mattered too much. But they move forward without you because staying would have meant betraying themselves. That kind of goodbye does not come with anger. It comes with clarity. And clarity does not look back. So this is where the story closes its final door. Not with chaos, not with hatred, but with understanding. Your soulmate leaves not to hurt you, but to honor themselves. And the last truth you will carry is this. The pain of losing them will teach you what their presence tried to show you, all along. That love must be lived consciously, not assumed. Because once a soulmate walks away in peace, they never come back looking for the love they already learned to give themselves. Now comes the moment where denial finally runs out of places to hide. You will feel an urge to reach out, to explain yourself better, to show that you understand now. But understanding after the damage feels different to the one who was hurting in real time. Your soulmate does not need explanations anymore. They needed consistency when confusion was loud. They needed presence when absence kept repeating. At this stage, your sudden awareness will feel sincere to you but overwhelming to them because they already adjusted to life without expecting you to change. And when someone adapts to your absence, your presence starts feeling intrusive rather than comforting. Here is the truth that most people never accept. Timing matters more than intention. You may have always loved them in your own way, but love that arrives late still arrives late. Your soulmate is no longer emotionally available to receive what you are finally ready to give. Not because they are cruel, not because they want revenge, but because reopening that door would mean reopening wounds they worked too hard to close. Healing teaches people boundaries, and once those boundaries are built, love has to respect them or stay outside. This is why chasing at this stage only creates more distance. You are running toward a place they already walked away from peacefully. Let this sink in slowly. When your soulmate stops responding the way they used to, it is not indifference. It is protection. They are protecting the version of themselves that almost got lost trying to keep the relationship alive alone. They are protecting the peace they earned through pain, and peace once found becomes non-negotiable. That is why emotional access gets limited. That is why conversations feel shorter. That is why warmth feels replaced by courtesy. You are not being shut out suddenly. You are being held at the boundary they needed long ago but learned to build too late. This is where the real lesson becomes unavoidable. Love is not proven by how much pain you feel when someone leaves. It is proven by how safe someone feels while staying. Your soulmate stayed until staying started hurting more than leaving. That choice required courage. And once courage replaces attachment, love transforms into wisdom. They will not come back to re-experience a lesson they already graduated from. People do not return to places where they learn the hardest truths. They carry the lesson forward and build something healthier elsewhere. So accept this ending with honesty, because resistance only deepens regret. Your soulmate was never meant to be owned or assumed. They were meant to be met fully, consistently, and consciously. If that did not happen, the loss becomes the teacher. And one day when you love again, you will recognize the signs earlier. You will listen when silence appears. You will act before distance becomes permanent. And that will be the final gift your soulmate left behind. Not their presence, but the awareness you needed to love better than before. Subscribe our channel for daily prayer prophetic.